I think that rural places just generally are much better at working together. I think there's something about the way communities operate, where you still know people when you go to the store,
Mhm.
that builds a level of trust. And when you have trust in another person, and then they ask if you will do something, that happens. I think it's a deeply overlooked asset. Is just our ability to work together. I mean, it goes back to barn raisings and other types of functions where it mattered who your neighbor was, and it still matters who your neighbor is now because you'll need them someday, and they might need you. I think that our ability to know that you can't always count on somebody from the outside for something is I think a different asset, and how we tend to view that problems are our own, and that we have to work on that is, I think, a different kind of asset. So not so much financial, but to me, you have to have hope and you have to have direction before anything else matters. So you used the word power a minute ago in your question to Bill and Crystal, and power is something that doesn't always matter in places of persistent poverty to people that at that moment, because they don't believe anything will be different anyway. So you have to once you overcome that, and they can lean on that stock of trust that they have with each other, I think that there's an enormous asset to that.
Yeah,
Well,
to build on that, um, when I moved to the Rio Grande Valley a long time ago, I was just a little kid right out of college, and I was driving around the colonias with my boss, Saul Murcia, and we're driving around, and we, I'm seeing these places that I had never seen before. I mean, houses just falling down, and outhouses, and electric wires running across the street because this house had electricity, but the four down the street didn't, and they were all plugging into it. And it had rained, and overflowed septic systems, which weren't really septic systems. They were just a hole in the ground that overflowed into the street. And every third house, there's this pile of bricks. And I'm thinking everybody's building a barbecue or something. I didn't know what was going on. And we get back to the house, and we're in Cameron Park. It's like the largest colonia in the nation, right? There's 6,000 people that live in this place. There's 11 miles of unpaved roads. But every other house had this pile of bricks. Some were 10 bricks, and some of them were like 100 bricks. And some guy even had a couple hundred bricks. And we got home, and I said to Saul, Saul, what's up with the bricks? And he said, oh, those are the bricks that they're going to put on the side of their house when they have enough. And it's hope. It's hope that, man, I don't even have running water right now, but I'm collecting bricks to put on the side of my house. At that moment, I knew that I am where I need to be because I don't have that kind of hope. And I'm going to be taught that hope. But these folks have that. And, Jim has said poverty and persistent poverty is a lack of hope before. And in our communities, we might get down, and we might get really upset. And, in my neck of the woods, we'll organize and, we'll start screaming and carrying red flags and, whatever the case may be. But the hope is always there. And that is something that we have that, I don't know if they have it in the inner cities and places. And if they do, great. But I do know we have it in our communities.
I absolutely have seen that people in the communities that we work in, people in the Delta, can do anything that anyone else can do if they have the tools. But you can't make blood out of a turnip.
That's right.
You can't get blood out of a turnip. You've got to make sure that we are making the investments that equip these communities to succeed. They have been extraction places, whether it's extracting coal or extracting, blood and sweat out of plantation workers, or extracting the history and legacy out of our Native American brothers and sisters. It is, we have extracted from these communities and not invested in them. The NCRP, National Committee for Responsible Philanthropy, recently released a study that showed that across the Deep South, the per capita philanthropic investment is around $40 compared to $950 in New York, roughly $400 average across the country. So a tenth of the philanthropic investment. And add on to that, Crystal mentioned CRA, bank investments. We are in no one's primary assessment area for Community Reinvestment Act. And so bringing resources into these communities is critical because you cannot, regardless of all of the willingness of people willing to roll up their sleeves, bring in experts, the best plans, technical, building capacity is a recipe for frustration if you don't have the resources to execute on those plans. And so we've got to ensure that these places are invested in.
You asked earlier who needs to be at the table, and I'm going to say right now the federal government, because right now they're stepping away. And Bill's right. And they keep if they're going to step away, everybody else steps away. And that's the philanthropic, that's the banks. We need people at the table, and the more people that step away, others follow. And that we don't need that.